everyone! Today I'm going to be talking to you about this book right here. That's right guys, this is the 8th Harry Potter book that we've been praying for the past 9 years. This is the first midnight release of a book that I have ever been to, and it was above and beyond what I expected. I don't really know what I expected going in, like it was just kind of going to be like a walk in, get the book as early as possible and then walk out, but like Barnes & Noble was just decked out in all kinds of Harry Potter things. There was some lame Harry Potter trivia going on. Naturally everyone was wearing their Harry Potter attire. I was actually wearing a shirt that said I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good, and socks that said mischief managed. I thought I was clever. Also, this hat, my sister made it. Isn't that cool? She's pretty cool. She's actually reading this right now. I stole it from her room to make this video while she's in the shower. So we got to the Barnes & Noble around 10:30, so we had to wait for another 2.5 hours just in anticipation. And because we all thought that the trivia games and the sorting hat and all the other activities that they had were not fantastic, we decided to naturally browse the books in the store as if it was any other day. And I actually got 2 books. Nimona, fabulous read. Highly, highly, highly recommend. I say that with all books, but like, I don't buy a lot of books unless I know that I love them, and this is just a 5-star graphic novel. I'm surprised I haven't made a video about this yet. I might see that in the future now that I own it. I also got a Sherlock Holmes book for $2, so that's exciting because gotta prepare in every way possible for Sherlock Season 4. There's also this wall where you could like write in these pastels your favorite memories involving Harry Potter, and while I wrote one thing that was a genuine memory-like thing, I also got in an argument with my friend about Jilly versus Snilly. I'm a Snilly fan myself. I was going around the wall correcting everyone's grammar, and, you know, so she wrote Jilly, and I was like, that's incorrect, so this happened. Yep. So after a long wait and lots of anticipation, this book finally came out. I was number 64 in line, and I was so excited that I forgot that I had a coupon that I could have used, but worth every penny this was. Oh my gosh, this is such a good book. It didn't feel real until I got the book and I opened it up just a little bit. I didn't even crack the spine, just opened it a little and saw like Harry, because you know it's a script of a play that's being put on in England right now. Not right now. Yeah, it's only 5:15 there. Anyway, it didn't feel real until I just saw Harry, I didn't even read the words. I just saw words on the page and oh my gosh, everything just exploded. This book exists. We have an 8th book. We have an extended version of the epilogue. And I didn't know a thing about it going in. I didn't know a thing other than Albus Severus was going to be our main character. And I didn't even know Scorpius was going to be in it, but he's kind of our secondary character here. I couldn't even really handle reading this. Like, I got all the way home and it was dark, so you couldn't read in the car, but I got home and I just sat with it, just like this, for a very long time. I didn't even start reading it until 1 a.m. And me and my friend decided to, my friend that I went to the midnight release with, of course, we decided, you know what, we're just gonna stay up all night and read this. In fact, I'm filming this on July 31st at noon. I haven't slept in 25 hours. Help me. Oh my gosh, it's worth it though. It's so worth it. There are very few books I would sacrifice this much sleep for, and how am I gonna get through filming this? Oh my goodness. So the book starts exactly where the 7th book left off with the epilogue. You see the epilogue reenacted, and then it just keeps going instead of ending it with all was well. And it just continues on and goes down so many different roads, and there is not a thing in it that you can possibly see coming. There is not a thing in it that you can even say, what is the weirdest fanfic that you could possibly imagine? I know what the most random things are now. This is the most insane collection of alternate universes because it messes with time travel. It explores a bunch of alternate universes and kind of alternate endings to the Harry Potter story had it gone ever so slightly differently in one specific time. One specific time changed everything. Starring Albus, Harry's son, Scorpius, Draco's son, Amos Diggory, of all people, and of course the Golden Trio and their families are all a part of this story, and the most random characters come back too. It's so well thought out. I cannot even imagine seeing this put on a stage. It's actually my goal. I think there's a chance about this big I might be able to see it before it closes. We don't know. I'm not gonna jinx it now, so I don't know. Paper counts as wood, doesn't it? So I'm sorry. As I said, I stayed up literally all night reading it, still have not slept since I read it. I'm just so unbelievably excited about this book. I cannot believe it exists. I'm still not over all of the plot twists, all of the characters. Like, we even introduced some new characters in this one that we don't even see in the 7 books beforehand, of course, because this is all about Albus's year and the people that he meets then. This book very well could have been a dream. For all I know, when I say I stayed up, I actually fell asleep, dreamed about this book being 100 times better than all the other books. Sorry, this is hands down my favorite Harry Potter book in the entire series. Like, even though it feels like a spin-off and it feels like a fanfic, everything in it is canon, guys. Everything confirmed happens, and I will talk a lot more about that in the spoilery section, but for now, guys, this is real. This is an 8th book. This is not a spin-off, and therefore I can confidently call it my favorite Harry Potter book. Absolutely. That's all I can say without spoiling, so if you have not yet read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, oh my gosh, you have to. You have to. And if you haven't read the Harry Potter series yet, you have to. I mean, if you're one of those people who says, oh, but it's too overrated because people talk about it too much, it's just getting started. This book just came out today. It's just getting started. So pick it up and then come back so that we can discuss. Half the fun of this book was that everything is canon. Everything that happens in this book actually happens in the Harry Potter universe. This isn't a fan fiction. This isn't a spin-off that's just a reimagining of the series. This is a genuine book that means something to the universe. So now, Voldytrix is confirmed canon with a child. Harry's blanket always carried a message throughout the entire series. Something we never would have seen coming at all. Like, it's just a baby blanket. How it has... I'm trying not to think of the paradoxes here before I blow my own mind. It is canon that if Cedric had not gotten through the first couple tasks of the Triwizard Tournament, he would become a Death Eater who would then kill Neville. That's canon! That is a literal thing that happens in another reality. But Albus Severus being a Slytherin is canon. I would have been so upset if he was not a Slytherin. I remember starting to write my own little Harry Potter fan fiction one time right after I finished the series, and I naturally put everybody in Gryffindor except for Albus Severus because he was so afraid of being a Slytherin. I'm like, stop you and your stereotypes. We don't need your houseism, Albus. It is canon that more time turners exist, and it's canon that Amos wants to use them to save his son's life. It is canon that the Trolley Witch stays on top of the train and grows spikes if you want to leave. All 7 books, and including the 8th, the Trolley Witch has always been on top of the train and doesn't remember her name because no one's asked it in so long, and that's kind of sad. But she can grow spikes! Now we know. Did I mention that it's canon that Cedric could have been a Death Eater if he hadn't won the Triwizard Tournament and died? Because, that's concerning. I also never really considered this while I was reading the books, that Petunia let Harry go to his parents' graves every year. I thought that was sweet. Like, you know, even though she is really mean about it, she's like, alright, go put your stupid flowers down and hurry up because Dudley has to be somewhere in an hour, so come on, we gotta go. But the fact that she took him there at all, like, I never really considered it, but if someone had asked me, do you think that Harry ever saw his parents' graves, I would have said no, because the Dursleys just didn't seem to care enough. But there's something there. That was cute. That it was in a dream sequence in this, but the dreams are considered memories for most of this because we do see it in other books. But that's canon. That's canon, guys. It is canon that Harry did see his parents' graves every year, thanks to the Dursleys who agreed to bring him there even just for a little bit. It is mostly canon. I'm not going to call this 100% canon because technically we don't see this, but when Ron is suggesting to Hermione that they renew their vows, which all the Hermione in this is the cutest thing, when he's suggesting that they renew their vows, he says something like, yeah, I'd like to do it again. Sober. Ron, what did you do? Ron. So it's likely canon that Ron was completely drunk during his wedding, and canon, guys. This is fact here. Harry did call out Dumbledore on all the things he's like lied to him about and like refused to tell him while he was alive, even though he's talking to his portrait, so it's not really Dumbledore, it's just kind of an impression of him. He still gets to call him out on all the things that he did, where like most of the fandom is kind of iffy on Dumbledore. I'm a little iffy on Dumbledore. I lean more toward the positive side, but a lot of people absolutely hate him because he left Harry at the Dursleys even though he knew it was an abusive household for 11 years. Like, some people refuse to forgive that even if there was a reason behind it. Some people don't like how he was so cryptic all the time because he just didn't tell Harry straight out, look, there are 7 Horcruxes you need to find, you need to destroy them, you can destroy them with the Sword of Gryffindor because it has basilisk venom. He couldn't have just said that. He made Harry figure it out, people don't like him because of that, and so on and so on, but the thing is, Harry does get to call him out on it, and that is canon, which is kind of nice, because even though Dumbledore's technically dead, and we aren't talking to Dumbledore, we're talking to his portrait, I feel like that was satisfying. Or that he's at least aware that there's a little bit of a problem, that he shouldn't look up to him for everything. So that's reassuring, I guess. Also thought this was creative. Didn't really come up with it until I was starting to write a few things down that I wanted to include in this video. That Harry and Voldemort are mortal enemies. And so are their children in this book. Albus Severus and Delphi get into a fight at the end, just like Harry and Voldemort. Like, their children are just as equally against each other. So it's canon that their generations are just never gonna get along, I guess. Well, of course not. And when talking to Ron about renewing their vows, Hermione, parentheses, melting slightly. Yeah, it's canon that Hermione wants to have a second wedding just so that they can renew their vows and be even more in love with each other. Oh my gosh, I love... Do you guys remember a few years ago that J.K. Rowling said that she regretted putting Ron and Hermione together because she didn't think Ron was right for Hermione. She thought that Hermione deserved better. I don't think she thinks that anymore. I never thought that. I mean, I can see where she was coming from because they're just very different people and, like, they obviously get along as friends, but I never super saw them more than that until, like, the 6th or 7th book. And after reading this, oh my gosh, there's so much. There's so much. I'm not used to shipping things that actually are canon within series or within shows or within movies or anything. I'm used to just finding two characters who are, like, really getting along well and just going, you know, I think they'd be cute together, and then they just never do get together. So usually I have to read fanfiction to get stuff like what happened in Hermione here. But so cute. They're so cute. Seeing them actually interacting together and flirting instead of just, like, sticking in the friend zone like we did with the first 7 books, it's so much easier to see them together and be really, really happy with it now that we get to watch them flirting and saying, like, hey, we're married, so, like, let's actually genuinely fall in love more. Like, I'm so glad we got to see that. Guys, it's canon that in the first book, before the first book, in 1981, when James and Lily died, it is canon that Harry was sitting right there when it happened. He was right outside, and he watched it all, and he was holding his kids' hands, and he said, no, I feel like I need to see this, I don't want to just leave before it happens. It's canon that in 1981, when James and Lily died, Harry watched it and remembers it. I mean, he is older, obviously. All the Polyjuice Potion action, I knew it would come back, because in the second book, when they first used Polyjuice Potion, I knew it wasn't just gonna be to snoop on Draco the whole time, like, and then in the fourth book it came back and I was like, okay, that's probably it. No, it's not. Let's talk about the canon uses of Polyjuice Potion for a minute. Albus Severus polyjuices into his uncle and gets way too into character when his aunt walks into the room. That was one of those scenes where it was like, this is the story now, and then in Act 4 you're like, remember that one time? It's the same book. And also, one of those things that I wouldn't have guessed in 1,000 years would possibly happen in any book or fan fiction ever, that Harry would polyjuice into Voldemort. It also would never have crossed my mind that Ron would suggest himself to be polyjuiced into Voldemort, because they have to make themselves look like Voldemort in order to protect Voldemort from Voldemort's child, so that Voldemort could still go to the Potter's house and kill Harry's parents. They need to make sure that happens, so they turn into Voldemort so that Voldemort doesn't get killed. They want to prevent someone from stopping Voldemort from causing death by becoming Voldemort. Who comes up with this? J.K. Rowling comes up with this. You just sat down at your desk, didn't you, and said, alright, I've been pestered to have a new series come out for so long, or just an 8th Harry Potter book is wanted so badly. What is the stupidest and weirdest thing I could possibly put in a book? Harry saving Voldemort as Voldemort. Let's not lie to ourselves, so that was amazing. That was amazing. I love this book so much. Can you please just talk about how the Golden Trio turned out, though? Like, they're still absolutely themselves. Like, Hermione is still giving out facts and trying to make logical solutions to things, and Ron's still, like, kind of sarcastic, making jokes and things, but also definitely has matured. Like, he definitely has a more serious side to him now. He can be more sentimental, obviously, with all the Ron and Hermione action. There's all the Hermione action. There's so much. Ron, you're slowly becoming more and more of my favorite character. Except Lupin's always my favorite character. But this whole thing, like, they're just like calling each other old at some point. Like, Ginny's saying to Ron, hey, I'll tell Mom you did this. Like, how them as kids was awesome, them as adults is, like, almost twice as awesome. And on Hermione's orders, Ron and Draco have to, like, awkwardly compliment each other. Ron's just like, okay, you have good hair. Draco does have good hair, let's be real. Is on Hermione's orders, it's just, they're all just amazing. Something else that's nicely canon is that Draco and Harry, for the first time, at the bottom of this dreadful pit, they look at each other as friends. Harry and Draco finally become friends. And I don't ship Drarry. Like, a few things now and then do make me ship it a little bit more. Most of the time it's just like, okay, they exist. I respect the people who do ship it, but I'm not a super huge fan. And then imagine how much Drarry shippers are loving. Like, Drarry shippers really did get their fill of Drarry, so I'm sure they were more than satisfied with it. Even J.K. Rowling, I'm pretty sure, has said something about, like, I don't understand why people think that Harry and Draco would be cute together because they're, you know, they're so mean to each other, they're terrible. She's still willing to give them a friendship, at least. It is confirmed canon that Harry Potter is afraid of pigeons. I'm done! I'm sorry, I should not have thrown you. I feel terrible. Do you forgive me? It's okay. it's canon that Snape knows that Harry named his kid after him and is just so honored by that. There's this whole side of the internet that just says, can you imagine how much Snape would hate knowing that Harry named his kid after him? Like, that's the one thing that gets me through because I hate Snape and whatever else. I don't hate Snape, I don't love Snape, I don't hate Snape. I think that's worth clearing up. I'm a Snilly shipper, but I don't love Snape. I didn't love him until the 7th book when I realized how good of a friend he was to Lily. And not getting into that right now. But when Snape does find out that Harry named his kid after him, he's just genuinely touched by that. Aww. Also the fact that the idea of Snilly did help our hero get what he wanted at one point. I don't even remember what it really was anymore. But the fact that it did help a little bit made my Jilly shipper friend say, alright, fine, I'll respect it. Seeing Snape care a lot more than he did in most of the books, it gets people to stop hating Snape so much, I feel like. At least it should. I didn't ever really hate Snape until he killed Dumbledore. But I was just kind of like, I can accept this human's existence. Now with this book involved too, he redeems himself. And my friend and I were actually talking about how this book, there was enough here, enough content with both Snilly and Jilly and both ways where you can see how both of them are cute, that it absolutely could unify the inevitable destruction of the world by the Jilly and Snilly wars, I guess, if you want to call it that. Like, there is enough here to make me understand, alright, James and Lily, I can deal with it, and to make my Jilly shipping friends say, Snape and Lily, I can deal with it. There are a couple of things I want to talk about simply because this is the script of a play that is being performed, already has been performed by the time I'm filming this now. And obviously I'm an actor, this isn't my first script that I've read, and so it wasn't too hard for me to get used to, but I mean this is something totally different from the rest of the Harry Potter books, obviously. Because it's not a book, it's a script. And, you know, there's stage directions, oddly detailed stage direction. But while I was reading it, there were some things that popped out, like, how do they do Polyjuice Potion on stage? Like, do they have two actors that just look extremely similar? Do they have a voiceover and then have, like, the actors play the way that they are? Do they have, like, really fast costume changes and really fast, like, actor turnaround to be able to say, I am Hermione, and now I'm going to turn around and be the person who is pretending to be Hermione, like, or do they have someone on stage? Do they just rely on the imagination of the audience to pick up the fact that, alright, this kid is playing Harry, so this person sees Harry, but we don't see Harry, we see whoever it was. Scorpius? Secondly, invisibility cloak. I don't even have a guess on this one. They probably have just like a blanket and we're supposed to imagine that they're invisible or just understand it's an invisibility cloak. There's also magic done on stage, like physical wand fight specifically with Draco and Harry. So when they like shoot Expelliarmus, you know, we know that one's red. So is it just that the entire wash of the stage just turns red for a second? Or is there ribbon or confetti or a laser shooting out of the wand? Like, I would love to see how that works on stage, or I can't imagine they would make us use our imagination for something like that, because that would look really, really stupid, let's be real. Think about how extravagant this set must be. Think about how many times they changed the set, and how quickly they changed the set. There are scenes that are like half a page long, and they're just there for a second, and then they have to change the whole thing again. I would hope it's a backdrop for the sake of the running crew, but somehow I feel like it's a ton more extravagant than that. Imagine how hard strike will be. Moment of silence for those who have to work on that. Intermissions are hard for most people. You know, you have to stop and then grow on a climax for 15 minutes until you finally get to figure out what happens after that. This is two separate places. Umbridge is running the school and Muggleborns are being tortured in the dungeons. Right after we figure out that Voldemort Day is a thing,